Episode 1. Germany. After World War I, the collapse that opened the door. To understand how Adolf Hitler rose to power, we must first understand the world he stepped into, not his personal past, but the political and economic conditions that made his rise possible. This story begins in 1918, with the collapse of the German Empire at the end of World War I. Chapter 1. The Defeat of 1918. In November 1918, Germany signed the armistice that ended World War I. The country had not been invaded, yet it had suffered exhaustion, starvation, and political chaos. To many Germans, the sudden defeat felt shocking and humiliating. The imperial government crumbled, the Kaiser abdicated, and a fragile new system replaced the old one, the Weimar Republic. But from its first day, the new republic faced enormous pressure. Germany had lost the war, but the consequences had only begun. Chapter 2. The Treaty That Shaped a Generation. Versailles, 1919. In 1919, the Allied powers imposed the Treaty of Versailles. It demanded massive territorial losses, a drastically reduced military acceptance of full war guilt, and immense financial reparations. These terms shocked the German population. The treaty was viewed not as peace, but as punishment. Political extremists on both the left and right quickly used the treaty as propaganda fuel. They claimed the democratic government had betrayed the nation. This anger became a foundation on which radical movements grew. Chapter 3. Economic Collapse and Radicalization, 1919-1923. Germany's economy spiraled downward. By 1923, inflation became hyperinflation. Bread prices changed twice a day. Savings became worthless. People lost trust in the government. In this chaos, dozens of political groups fought for influence. Nationalists, monarchists, communists, and paramilitary organizations battled in the streets. One of the small political groups active in Munich during this period was the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazi Party. It was still minor, still irrelevant, but the environment of rage, fear, and instability created an opportunity for radical messages to spread. Chapter 4. The Failed Coup and What It Revealed, 1923. In November 1923, nationalist leaders in Bavaria attempted to overthrow the Weimar Republic. The plan failed. The uprising, known as the Beer Hall Putsch, collapsed within hours. The government proved stronger than extremists expected. Radical groups were banned, including the Nazi Party. But something crucial happened. The Putsch gave the movement public attention for the first time. The attempt to seize power exposed a truth that extremists would later exploit. The Weimar Republic survived the coup, but it survived narrowly. Chapter 5. A Republic Under Constant Pressure, 1924-1929. After 1923, Germany experienced brief stability. Foreign loans entered the country. Industry recovered. Culture flourished. But beneath the surface, the republic remained fragile. The political system was deeply divided. Coalitions collapsed frequently. Extremist groups rebuilt quietly. And resentment toward the Treaty of Versailles never disappeared. Germany looked stable, but it was not secure. Chapter 6. The Global Crisis that changed everything, 1929. In 1929, the Wall Street crash triggered a worldwide economic collapse. Germany, dependent on American loans, was hit harder than almost any nation. Within a year, factories closed, millions lost their jobs. Political violence exploded, faith in democracy collapsed. The crisis destroyed the remaining trust in the Weimar government. People turned toward parties that promised strong, decisive action, whether democratic or not. For the Nazi movement, this moment was decisive. The economic collapse transformed them from a fringe group into a national force, not because of personal charisma and not because of destiny, but because the system itself was falling apart. Ending of Episode 1. Germany's defeat in 1918. The humiliation of the Versailles Treaty. Political polarization, hyperinflation, and the global economic crash together created a perfect storm. It was within this storm, this crisis of democracy, that the Nazi movement found its opening. In the next episode, we examine how that movement expanded, organized, and transformed itself into a political machine capable of challenging the entire German state. This is not the story of one man. This is the story of a nation in collapse and how such a collapse can give rise to extremism. Episode 2. The Making of a Political Machine. The Nazi Party's Expansion, 1929-1932. By 1929, Germany was shaken by a global economic collapse. Millions were unemployed, political violence surged, and many citizens believed that the democratic system could no longer protect them. In this atmosphere, a once small and insignificant political group began transforming itself into a nationwide organization. This episode explores how the Nazi Party expanded not through fate or destiny, but through strategy, propaganda, and the failures of the Weimar system. Chapter 1. From Fringe Group to National Force. Before the Great Depression, the Nazi Party was minor. In 1928, they held only 12 seats in the Reichstag, barely 2 of the vote. But after 1929, everything changed. Unemployment exploded. Middle-class families lost their savings. Workers feared starvation. Farmers faced bankruptcy. In times of stability, extremist ideas struggle, but in times of crisis, simple explanations and bold promises become attractive. The Nazis offered both. Their message was direct. Germany was in crisis because democracy was weak. The Treaty of Versailles was unjust, and only strong leadership could restore national strength. This message spread quickly across the country. Chapter 2. A Modern Propaganda Machine. The Nazi movement became one of the most advanced propaganda organizations of its time. They used mass rallies, uniformed marches, flags, and symbols, traveling speakers, posters and newspapers, radio broadcasts, simple slogans repeated constantly. Their goal was not to debate. Their goal was to dominate the public space. Political scientist Ian Kershaw describes the party's approach as theatrical politics designed to create emotion rather than discussion. When other parties relied on speeches in parliament, the Nazi Party took their message directly to the streets. Chapter 3. Organization at the local level. The movement did not grow only through national speeches. It expanded by building a network of local cells across the entire country. Every town, every district, every neighborhood had a party leader, distributors of leaflets, organizers for rallies, youth recruiters, members who reported local issues. This decentralized model allowed the party to react quickly. If unemployment rose in one region, they organized rallies there. If farmers protested in another area, they targeted rural propaganda. Historians note that by 1932, the party had become present in almost every part of Germany, something few democratic parties achieved. Chapter 4. Sturmabteilung, SA, and the Politics of Intimidation. The Nazi Party's paramilitary branch, the SA, played a critical role in its rise. The SA protected Nazi meetings, disrupted opponents. Events clashed with communist groups, created a sense of power and momentum. Street violence became common. Clashes between the SA and communist paramilitaries turned cities into battlegrounds. The Weimar government struggled to control the violence. Each clash made the democratic system appear weaker. and each sign of weakness strengthened extremist parties. The SA presented itself as a force restoring order, even though they contributed to the disorder. Chapter 5. Electoral Breakthrough, 1930-1932. The 1930 election was the turning point. The Nazis jumped from 12 seats to 107, becoming the second largest party in Germany. They had transformed economic misery into political power. But their momentum didn't stop. Germany held multiple elections between 1930 and 1932 because no stable government could be formed. In each election, the Nazi vote increased. By July 1932, they won $37, becoming the largest party in the Reichstag. The Weimar system had not collapsed yet, but it had lost the public trust. Chapter 6. The Failure of Democracy. The Weimar Republic was designed to be democratic, but it faced structural weaknesses. Coalition governments collapsed frequently. Emergency decrees were used instead of normal laws. Presidents held too much power. The public saw politics as chaotic and ineffective. Instead of uniting against extremism, democratic parties were divided by ideology. Moderate conservatives believed they could control the Nazi movement, using it to stabilize the government. This miscalculation would have devastating consequences. Democracy did not die in a single moment. It eroded slowly through economic crisis, political fragmentation, and a series of decisions made by leaders who believed they could manage the danger. Chapter 7. A Nation. Ready for Radical Change. By 1932, millions of Germans were ready to abandon parliamentary democracy. Many were not extremists. Many were not ideologically aligned with the Nazi movement. They were simply desperate. To them, democracy meant unemployment, violence, instability, humiliation abroad, failure to solve national problems. In crisis, people often seek certainty. The Nazi Party offered certainty based not on policy, but on discipline, organization, and the image of strength. This was the environment in which the movement thrived. The rise of the Nazi Party was not sudden. It was the result of political collapse, economic disaster, and the inability of democratic leaders to respond. End of Episode 2. Narrator. The Nazi movement did not seize power through an immediate revolution. It built a political machine, exploited economic crisis, and took advantage of a weakened democratic system. In the next episode, we examine the decisive moment, how political negotiations in 1932-1933 brought the Nazi Party to the center of government, and how they were underestimated until it was too late. Chapter 3. The Beer Hall Putsch and the Rebirth of a Movement, 1923-1925. When Germany sank deeper into crisis in 1923, extremist groups saw their moment. Hyperinflation was destroying daily life, and political violence shook the streets. For the early Nazi movement, this instability looked like an opportunity. On November 8-9, 1923, Hitler and other Nazi leaders attempted to overthrow the Bavarian government in Munich. This event is known as the Beer Hall Putsch. Despite its bold ambition, the coup attempt collapsed quickly. Police forces opened fire on the marchers. Several Nazis were killed, and the leadership was arrested shortly afterward. The Nazi Party was banned. Hitler was put on trial, and later imprisoned. But rather than ending the movement, these events transformed it. During the ban, the Nazi Party reorganized itself around a new strategy: seizing power legally, through elections, propaganda, and organization, not through rebellion. This shift became the foundation of the party as future success. When the ban was lifted in 1925, the Nazi Party returned to public life with a clearer structure, a stronger message, and a long-term plan to expand its influence. They established a national network of local branches, youth organizations, propaganda units, and paramilitary forces, each intended to build loyalty and spread their ideology across Germany. Step by step, the movement positioned itself to take advantage of future crises. Chapter 4. Crisis Returns, the Great Depression and the Nazi Surge, 1929-1932. Germany's fragile stability collapsed again when the Great Depression hit the world in 1929. Banks failed, industries shut down, and unemployment reached historic levels. Millions lost faith in traditional political parties. The Nazi Party seized this moment. Their message of national revival, combined with relentless propaganda, found a large audience among desperate voters. By 1930, the Nazis had transformed from a small fringe party into a major political force in the Reichstag. The paramilitary SA marched through cities, displaying strength and discipline. Propaganda campaigns targeted workers, farmers, students, and the unemployed, each group receiving tailored promises. Between 1930 and 1932, the Nazi vote grew dramatically. Yet, despite this rise, they still lacked a majority. To gain real power, they needed a crucial decision from political leaders who believed they could control and use the Nazis to stabilize the country. That belief would prove to be a catastrophic miscalculation.